Hey, hey, hey. Hey, guys. Welcome in, welcome in. Hey, everyone. Hi to all my mods. Hey, Merp or Thistle, do you guys want to do that thing? Hang on, I'm going to try. Let's see if it gets angry. I don't even know if it's working yet. We'll see. It did it. So far, so good. Fingers crossed. It worked. I know. How's everyone doing? Hi, Merp. Hey, Nora's grandma. Hey, Heather. Hey, Butterfly Kisses. Hey, BG. Hey, Red Eye. Hey, Lisa. Hey, Cool Gamer. Hey, Christy Bushy. Well, welcome in. I don't think that there will necessarily be a ton of people in here, which is fine. Just because Sherry's case is not necessarily a case that is a hot topic. Um, but that doesn't mean it's not so important. So we are going to go through Sherry's case. I'm going to show you guys everything that I found. Um, and so on. And then at least it will be here, and Sherry will have a place on the channel for if anyone does search up Sherry Orofino or want to know anything else about her case. But this is a case that's going to be a little bit different just because it happened in 1987. There's no more. No. I'll have to make one for her though, because she'll throw a fit. I'm sorry. You can just say hi to my mom in general, Merp. But all right, so Sherry Orofino, she was 24 years old. Her case, I will be. Sorry, I yelled that. Took place in New York. And like I said, this happened back in 1987. So I'm not going to lie, it's been quite a struggle to find a lot of the information regarding her case. And a lot of the official, like, I don't know how to explain it. Like the official articles and such that are online um are different than what was actually originally reported in newspapers and stuff, which is an aspect that I've never utilized before with showing you guys. But we will be going through. I clipped a bunch of little snippets out of newspapers.com from back in 87, 88, and so on, regarding Sherry's case. And then we will also go over Google Maps and just a handful of other things. I will say that this is an unsolved case. And if you guys did see Elisa in chat, she also has Sherry's photo as her avatar. Thank you, Retta. I appreciate that. Welcome, Wilby. Welcome in. Um, damn it, Heather. Um, Anyways, so Elisa's aunt was actually childhood best friends with Sherry growing up, and she had reached out to me months ago regarding Sherry's case and asking if I would look into it, if I would cover it. I've had conversations over the phone, interviews with them, and yes. So I've been holding off mostly because I've not been able to get a ton of information from police. I filed FOIA requests. I have sent emails and everything because it's unsolved and is still considered an open case is not allowing the sharing of information. Um, Even though there's technically still an investigator on the case. Um, but during my interviews, I did find out certain information that is not necessarily out there in the public, but I'm not going to bring it up tonight, just because I am not necessarily into speculation. As you guys know, I like to stick to the facts. Um, and I don't want to throw anything out there potentially harming anyone that it could harm, without, talking to the investigator and stuff like that. So I have Not everything, but I wanted to make sure I wanted to make sure that I got Sherry's story out there. I've kind of held on to it and gatekeeped it enough over the last few months, and I just want to kind of get the initial story out there so that way as I can get more information in, I can share it with you guys. Um so let me grab the overlays, which is also why well, I'm not going to lie. I was going to cam up tonight. I'm ready to cam up tonight and then I got too lazy to clean my room. So, that's where we're at. But as you guys can see, this is the initial reward poster that was put out for Sherry Orofino when she went missing. Um, there is a lot of openness to this case. A lot of people say Sherry's case is potentially solved without the individual potentially being put in jail or charged for her case. But I don't know. Shame on what, Heather? Now remember, this is 1987, so that's probably why it looks like this. But let's get into the first overlay here. So this is Sherry. At the time of her going missing, she was 24 years old. This all occurred in New York. She had blonde hair. She was 110 pounds. She was last seen wearing a yellow blouse over a black tank top with black jeans and a black jacket. Oh, yeah. So, this case, like I said, there's not a ton of information. I did get a handful of information regarding who Sherry is as a person, which you guys know I like to introduce you guys to be able to humanize each of the victims that we talk through. Um, and so I'm going to give you guys what I can in regards to Sherry. Oh, my room, Heather. That's what it was. Gotcha. My bad. It'll be clean eventually. I can still walk around in it. I just, to be honest, I didn't want to make my bed. But all right. So, learning a little bit more about Sherry. Like I said, she was 24 years old when this all happened. Now, when talking to Elisa and Davina, which is Lisa's aunt, I got to know her a little bit, but it had been a little bit of time since Davina had seen her because they had grown up together versus being like a friend in person during this time. So there is a little bit of a break there, but it doesn't mean anything. So um, I also was reading different things that her husband had said about her. So that's kind of where I got a lot of this stuff. So she was fun and easygoing. Everybody loved her. She was said to be very flirtatious when she walked in a room. Everyone would look at her. She would smile. She's friendly. She loved everyone. Everyone loved her. She loved to cook. Davina had said she was really good at tuna melts. She loved to dance. She was known for going to clubs and just dancing all night long, and loved to have a drink now and then. So it was, but she was just known as like a fun-loving girl. Um, when Nora's grandma. All right. So that's unfortunately a lot of what we know about Sherry as a person is she was very happy. Everyone loved her. She loved to dance. She loved to cook. She loved to have a good time. And that's really it, which sucks. Not gonna lie. It kind of sucks ass um that we don't know much about her. And but at least current her. So we'll keep going. I'm gonna bring you guys into kind of meeting a handful of well, just her husband at this point. So her husband is Paul Orofino. Um, they had gotten married only about a year before she disappeared. They had recently moved from Manhattan to Millbrook, New York, and Paul had opened a music studio there. I believe his studio is still open, but I don't believe he lives in New York anymore. Um, I want to say when I looked it up, it was Arizona or something like that. But they were, like I said, newlyweds and had just wanted to start a family soon, and everything was kind of just going as planned. They had just moved. I will say, with Paul opening his music studio, he was putting in long hours, like 12 to 15 hours a day. He wouldn't get home till about midnight, just kind of trying to get things off the ground and making sure that they had the studio booked and that they were being able to make payments and everything like that. So he was gone a lot of the time with opening the studio. Um, but that didn't necessarily mean anything regarding their relationship. So but it does come into the timeline of the night that she does go missing. So we have March 1st, 1987. Sherry had gone and spent a few days with friends. She knew that Paul was going to be working um, overnights or really, really late nights. So she decided to go back to kind of where they were from around the area, stayed with some friends, hung out with some friends. And then it was March 1st, 1987. She decided to leave her friend's home in Bayside, Queens, New York, and drive home to Millbrook to cook dinner for Paul, was what she had told friends. And she also had called Paul and told him, "Hey, I am on my way home and I'm coming to cook you dinner." So I'm assuming it's just because their hours were all wacky from his hours and everything like that. But it was about an hour and 29 minutes if you took a straight shot from her friend's house to her home. And she had left right after 3 a.m. to drive home. Now, if you ask me, it sounds like she was making breakfast, not dinner, but whatever. That's besides the point. It was reported as went home to cook dinner for Paul when he came home later. So she told her friends goodbye. She left. She called Paul, told him when she left that she was leaving, how long it would be, and that she would be home. And then Sherry never actually made it home. So that is kind of where the story of her disappearance begins. Is she leaves Bayside, Queens at about just after 3 a.m. and then never makes it home. Now, this is where the time frame of things of this occurring in 1987 is going to play a role, because in all of the articles it says Paul reported Sherry missing 2 days later. Now, um, we all know, being in true crime, that you do not have to wait any amount of time to report someone missing. The police cannot tell you that you have to wait a certain amount of time before you can report it. If you know someone's character and how they are, then you can report them missing. Um, Back in the day, police would just say, no, you have to wait. Um, so when I first heard this, I remember being like, what the hell? And side eyeing it. Come to find out that he actually did end up going to both the Bayside Police Department and the Millbrook Police Department, and reported her that day. But they told him that they couldn't take an official report for a few days to see if she would come back. Just the initial storyline of someone going missing. She was already, at her friends for a few days, so the police were probably like, "Hey, you know, she just decided to stay a little bit, blah blah blah," not taking into account anything of him saying like, "Actually, she called me and said she was on her way home and didn't show up." Um, but that's pretty much the storyline until within the first few days. Her 1987 Toyota MR2 was actually found abandoned, and I put on the Taconic Parkway on here, but it's actually near, which I will show you guys once I get to the Google Maps portion of this. Um, but another part of this that is stressful when it comes to having it be a case from 1987 is you're only getting guesstimates of everything. So one thing will say it was near this, and then another one will say it was the cross street of this and everything. But as we get kind of farther into the story, hey, J. Kels, you'll kind of be able to see a little bit more of like why the Taconic Parkway comes into play a little bit more according to the official storyline of what people believe happened to Sherry. But yes, so her car was found on the Taconic Parkway just a few days within um, the investigation starting. So this is going to be a handful of days after she actually goes missing because it was, I think, a few days after she was reported missing, which was 2 days after she actually went missing. Um, and so she ends up being missing. Really, J. Kells, that's interesting. This is actually um, a family member of one of you guys, a subscriber, Elisa. Her aunt was actually best friends growing up with Sherry. So that's kind of how this case came into my mind and into me wanting to cover it. So this all, like I said, was March 1st, 1987. So then we get into August 9th, 1987. Unfortunately, Sherry's remains are found in Yorktown, New York. It's about 2 miles from where her car was abandoned in the Croton Reservoir. Not in the reservoir, but very just off of the reservoir, which once again I will show you guys. But it was just her bones, and they were scattered in a densely wooded area. So, like I said, she was out there for about 5 months, supposedly, but it was just her bones that were recovered and matched. So, I'm going to show you guys here. Here's just those 3 pictures of Sherry. The first 2 are ones that are on the internet. This one here was a picture of Sherry that Davina had given me of at a wedding. So, yeah, those are the overlays that I have for this. That is like the gist of her case in the information that's out there. If you actually Google Sherry Orofino, there is not a lot out there whatsoever. Yeah, possibly Thistle. I would say, well, I'd say probably. It's probable that wildlife probably got a hold of her. Because they, and with it being as far back as it was, it's not like they're not releasing the autopsy report. I don't know if they found all the bones of the complete skeleton or not. So there's still a lot of question marks in that, but I'm assuming if her body was just, put in the woods, that would be a good bet. But okay, so let me see which one of these I want to pull up for you guys. I'm gonna go over just the articles that are out there. So like I said, there's like 3 articles that are out there regarding Sherry's case, and I want to just make sure that you guys have the ability to see everything. So this is one that shows you a little bit more information. So this one here is woman's car found on the Taconic, her body found in the woods. It's still an ongoing investigation. This is probably the last article, like the most recent article written about her case, which was May 10th, 2016, which is crazy to me. But this is what her car looked like. This is not her car, but this is just similar to what her car would look like. This is also where her car was found. Once again, guys, remember this is 87, so this is kind of the overview of what we get, unfortunately. Hi, Jujubee, it's good to see you. And then once again, the picture of Sherry. So I will read through this a little bit more. I'm going to skim through it just because a lot of it is what I've already told you guys. And so goes on about March 1st, 1987. She was visiting a friend in Bayside, Queens. She left Bayside just after 3 a.m. for her residence in Dutchess County, which she lived in Millbrook, which is in Dutchess County. And then it says on March 3rd, the state police were contacted by Orofino's husband, who stated that she hadn't arrived home. During the course of the investigation, troopers learned that Orofino's abandoned vehicle was located by Yorktown Police Department off of the Taconic State Parkway on Route 134 in the town of Yorktown. Once again, I will be going through and showing you guys on a map the distance between all of this. But if you remember, I said from her friend's house to her home, it was about an hour and 29-minute drive. And everything kind of happened within that area. So it says 6 months after her disappearance on August 9th, 1987, Orofino's skeletal remains were found scattered in a densely wooded area near the Croton Reservoir. Her body had been decomposed and no apparent cause of death could be determined. It goes on to once again say Orofino was a white male with long blonde hair and weighed approximately 110 pounds. She was last seen wearing a yellow blouse over a black tank top, black jeans, and a black jacket. The death of Orofino continues to be actively investigated by police. Numerous leads have been followed up throughout the investigation. However, this homicide has never been solved. Investigators continue to comb the Croton Reservoir area, searching for clues that may bring closure to Sherry's family. It also will go into this information here. If you do have any information regarding Sherry's case, to call the investigator at the number with that SJS number, which I do have also on one of my overlays that I'll show you guys at the very end. And hey, Kelly, welcome in. All right. And that's the gist of that one. That's, like I said, the most recent article that there is regarding her case. We also go on to, there's this article, which is just cases in New York that, I'm going to share it, hang on, that can be solved. So she just kind of gets a snippet in this one. There's 6 Westchester cold case murders that you can help solve. And once again, it's just a snippet from years ago. I think this is 2015 maybe, showing that reward poster that I had showed you guys towards the beginning. And it also is an interview with her husband, Paul. So it says, it was like a bad B movie. B- movie or B movie? I'm not exactly sure what he means, but recalls Paul Orofino with a sad laugh. In March 1987, Paul recently opened a recording studio in Millbrook, New York, and a band had booked the studio for a month straight. Because he expected to be working until about midnight each night, his wife, Sherry Orofino, decided to spend a few nights with friends in Queens, where both of them had grown up. The couple had been married less than a year. Paul says his wife was easygoing. Everybody loved her. She was just a lot of fun. The 24-year-old also was blonde and beautiful. Paul and Sherry had moved out of Manhattan to Millbrook in Dutchess County only a few months earlier. They hoped to have kids away from the city, where it would be cheaper for Paul to operate his studio and would also be safer away from crime. And then, after spending a few days in Queens, Sherry told friends she was going home to make dinner for Paul. She also called Paul to tell him the same thing, but she never arrived. When his wife didn't show up, Paul called all of their mutual friends and went to the police, both in Queens and in Millbrook. He was told it was too soon for either department to do anything. When more time passed and Sherry didn't turn up, a missing person investigation was launched. Sherry's car was found abandoned off the Taconic State Parkway on Route 134 in Millwood. 6 months after her disappearance, Sherry's remains were found near the Croton Reservoir in Yorktown. The body had decomposed and no cause of death could be determined. Paul was shocked to find out he was one of the prime suspects. They told me the husband does it 90% of the time, and if he didn't do it, he hired someone to do it, he says. Paul readily agreed to take several polygraph tests, during which he was subjected to intense interrogations. Basically, you're in a room with a light bulb, like in one of those military movies, and every one of the cops or agents is yelling at you and swearing at you. We saw you with this criminal. We know you hired someone to kill your wife. Even though it was difficult, Paul says he understands the necessity for thoroughness, and the investigation was thorough. While they interviewed Paul, authorities also were exploring other avenues. They set up roadblocks around the area where Sherry's car was found and began interviewing people, asking if they had seen anything that night. Witnesses recalled seeing a blonde woman pulled over by a cop around the time Sherry likely would have been passing through the area based on when she left her friends in Queen. That is where I'm going to end that article, just because we will be getting into that potential sighting and the storyline that comes with it. But let me stop sharing that one. Yes, Nora's grandma. It is Elisa, if you guys can see. And this will ask if Paul and Sherry's relationship was like, do we know? And Elisa said it was a little rocky. So, allegedly. But yeah. All right. So where should we go to next? I suppose we can go into the news clippings. So, one thing that I found very interesting is with newspapers.com and all of the clippings that I was able to find regarding her case. Number one, at the very beginning, they did state a cause and manner of death in the newspaper. I don't know if that was a slip up, if that was them assuming. But there was a little bit more information in these that was not in official, like, online reports that came through, which I did find quite interesting. But let me share this part with you guys. And you'll have to just bear with me because I haven't actually shared and gone through stuff on newspapers.com. Now, one thing that I'm going to bring up as we're going through this, because some of the articles that I saved were about this. But around the same time frame, we run into a character, and when I say character, I mean a guy named Ronald Langer. He was a Briarcliff Manor police officer. And we find out during this time that he was illegally pulling over women on the Taconic Parkway, sexually assaulting them, and then potentially letting them go at this point. So with the storyline of a potential for someone, hey Glowbug, welcome in, of someone seeing a blonde woman in the area where Sherry was being pulled over by a cop at that time frame. This has kind of been the storyline of what the official storyline is, I should say. So you guys will see that. I am going to read through a lot of these. He is brought up in a lot of these. But yeah, so let me go. Let me see which one I want to do first. So I have a ton here from all around, obviously. Let's see. Let's start here. So this is March 12th, 1987. And this is what? So technically her missing persons report came out on the 3rd is when her husband was able to actually put it in. But this is before her body is found. So as you guys can see here, it's from the Citizen Register. Thursday, March 12th, 1987. It says police have few clues in case of missing Millbrook woman. The investigation of the disappearance of a Millbrook, New York woman whose car was found abandoned March 1st in Yorktown has yielded no conclusive information yet, state police said Wednesday. God, newspaper spacing will be the death of me. The theories are too numerous and the findings are negative, State Police investigator Robert Cleary said. Sherry Orofino, 24, was last seen in Bayside, New York about 3 a.m. March 1st when she left a friend's house to return home to Millbrook, where she lived with her husband Paul, police said. Her car, a 1987 Toyota MR2, was found later parked by the side of Route 134 in Yorktown. Clearly said there is no way to prove yet whether someone abducted her or whether she parked the car and walked off. No one in the area saw anything, so there are thousands of theories about what happened to her, he said. Police are trying to lift fingerprints from the car, Cleary said, and then they will test drive it to see if there were any mechanical problems that may have forced her to pull over. Right now, we can't stress one particular theory, he said. Hey, Aaron. Welcome in. So, this is one of the first news clippings that ended up coming out regarding her case locally there. I want to see if that's the same one. Yes, okay. So, with this one here, which you guys are kind of going through this, like I've clipped these over the last few months, so you're kind of going through it with me as we go through all of this. So, search for missing woman yields nothing significant. So, okay, so this is before that last one. This is March 7th. So this is only 4 days after she goes missing. State police searched for clues Friday in the connection with the disappearance of a Millbrook, New York woman whose car was found abandoned Tuesday in Yorktown. 14 members of the state police questioned neighbors, business owners, and joggers for any information they might have on Sherry Orofino, 24, who was last seen Monday in Bayside, Queens. State police investigator Robert Cleary said the search turned up nothing significant, but the investigation would continue. Orofino's car, a 1987 black Toyota, was found parked on Route 134 in Yorktown about 8 a.m. Monday. Cleary said. Sergeant Dennis Cody, a state police spokesman, said Orofino had been visiting friends in Bayside and left there to return home about 3 a.m. Monday. He said she lives in Millbrook with her husband Paul, who filed the missing persons report. The missing woman is described as white with long blonde hair. She is last seen wearing a yellow blouse over a black tank top, black dungarees, and a possible black leather jacket, police said. So, once again, there's another one of the initial postings of her going missing. This one within only a few days, which is good. Let's see. Okay, let's read this one then. Is it? Okay. All right. So this one is from March 13th. And it says police have no leads on missing woman. A Millbrook woman who disappeared more than a week ago left no signs that she planned to leave the area, state police investigators said Wednesday. This is a little unusual, said investigator Robert Cleary. She had her bills made out to be mailed and had deposit slips ready for next week's paycheck. She told people at work, have a good weekend, and had an appointment at her beauty parlor for 3 weeks later. Police have no leads into the disappearance of Sherry Orofino, 24. Her black sports car was found March 1st on Route 134 in Yorktown, just west of the Taconic State Parkway. Investigators widened their search for Orofino to the Croton Dam, several miles from where her car was found, Cleary said. He said they looked for her around the dam and bridges. We've thoroughly searched within a couple of miles of the car, but the question is, how far can you go? If she's left the area in a car, you'd have to go 50, 100 miles, Cleary said. Orofino was last seen by her friends in Queens at 3 a.m. the day her 1987 Toyota was found, said Cleary. So, that one gives us a little bit more information, just another little snippet of information regarding she had her bills made out, she had deposit slips ready, and that she was planning things. So I think at this point they were trying to make sure that this wasn't a self-unaliving, or at least trying to get the public to accept that, I suppose. So there's that one. Trying to see now. We got that one. Of course, they don't save these in order of when they were. Um, Nora's grandma, I don't know necessarily. I think he's probably gone with the vast majority of people in like hooking on to the Ronald Langer theory of this, which we will get into. I will be telling you guys a little bit more about him in a second here. So, okay, we got August 11th, August 14th. We're past that. 14th. I just want to make sure I'm going to somewhat read them in order as we go. So, we're going to get to now where her body is found. So, this is from August 11th, 1987. Technically, her body was found on the 9th. No, it's a good question. I don't know if I would have brought it up. And it says officials do not know how long the body had been at the spot, but Cody said, which is the investigator, that he hoped an autopsy performed at the Westchester Medical Center in Valhalla, don't know if I'm saying that right, would give clues to circumstances behind her disappearance. Their investigative leads we're pursuing that we're not releasing, Cody said, but we have no clues whatsoever on what had caused her death. Orofino, a petite woman with long blonde hair, lived in Danielle Apartments on Route 44 with her husband of 1 year, Paul. Sherri Orofino had moved to Millbrook from Bayside, Queens about 9 months earlier. She was returning from driving a friend home to Bayside the weekend of her disappearance. So this is another aspect of this that supposedly had changed when she actually had spent time there versus a friend there driving her home. So that's a little aspect. But when Orofino and the friend left Millbrook Saturday, February 28th, her black Toyota had 3/4 of a tank of gas in it. Police had said Paul Orofino, a self-employed recording engineer, was expecting his wife home the next day. Her car was found off the Taconic facing north with a full tank of gas. There were no signs of a struggle, and Cody said no unfamiliar fingerprints were found when the car was dusted. Shortly after Orofino's disappearance, investigator Robert Cleary said the woman left no signs that she planned to leave the area. And then it goes on to talk about how she had made out an appointment at the beauty parlor scheduled for 3 weeks later. And then he says, we have felt from the beginning that it would have been kind of peculiar for her to wander off in that area. She didn't know anyone there. All right, so let's see if I have one other August 11th one or not. I don't think so. Oh, I lied. Skeleton identified. This is also from August 11th. So, woman was reported missing since March. A skeleton found near the Croton Lake Reservoir over the weekend has been identified through dental records as the remains of a 24-year-old Millbrook woman missing since March, state police said Monday. State Police Sergeant Dennis Cody identified the woman as Sherry Orofino, whose car was found near the reservoir March 2nd. The woman was last seen the day before as she left her parents' home in Bayside, Queens, at 3 a.m. Police believe she was returning to Millbrook the morning she disappeared. Once again, different storyline. So it is very interesting how the differences kind of go on based on what was reported initially. Dr. Darley Jeanty, an assistant Westchester County medical examiner, said determining the cause of death will be difficult because of the condition of Orofino's body. Cody said police have not ruled the case a homicide and are still investigating the circumstances of Orofino's death. A search of her car in March revealed no clues. That's what was missing from the case from the beginning. There was no sign of a struggle in the car. The body was found Sunday in a remote, thickly wooded area below Croton Lake Road, near the bank of the reservoir, by 2 passing fishermen. The spot is in New York is in Yorktown, about 1.5 miles west of the Hunter Brook Bridge, which spans Route 129. Orofino was last seen wearing black jeans and a yellow blouse over a black tank top. On Sunday, police could be seen pulling what looked like wet articles of clothing from the reservoir. There are no houses near the site where the bones were found. The area is sometimes used by fishermen. So, starting to get a little bit more information. Let's see. I'm trying to figure out which one it wants me to do here. Right, Elisa? I know, it is weird. Um, yeah, I don't know, Nora's grandma, if it's just the timing of when this all happened or what. I'm not sure. So this one is from August 19th, 1987. And it says, Death of Millbrook woman, a homicide, police say. State police investigators are considering the death of a Millbrook woman a homicide, but they say they still don't know how she died. Trooper John King said Tuesday that investigators in Peekskill were continuing to await results of an autopsy on the body of Sherry H. Orofino, 24. They have determined it is a homicide unless they find she died some other way or had some indication her death was a suicide, said King. Orofino, who lived at the Daniel Apartments on Route 44, had been missing since March. Her remains were found last week in woods near the Croton Reservoir, about 3 miles from where Orofino's abandoned car was found March 2nd. Orofino was last seen by friends in Queens at 3 a.m. March 1st. Her black Toyota sports car was found parked off the Taconic State Parkway in Yorktown. King said the death had been handled as a crime because Orofino had not appeared depressed or given any signs of wanting to leave home or family. She was returning to Millbrook from Queens at the time of her disappearance. Based on the circumstances and the fact that the body was found 3.5 miles from where the car had been seen, and that she had last been at a party with a friend who said she wasn't depressed, the case is being carried as a homicide. Police have also said that Orofino told friends she would see them after the weekend and made an appointment with her hairdresser. Robert Neary, chief of the Homicide Bureau of the Westchester County District Attorney's Office, said state police had not yet turned the case over to his office. Right? Yeah, 1987. Right. I am not quite sure, Merp. Possibly. Alright, let's see. Which one else are we gonna read? Smearty did skeleton identified. Just want to make sure. Okay. So now we're just going to kind of go through some of the other ones. They're going to just be random ones and just make sure that we go over all of them so that you guys have the ability to know it all. So this is from 88, December 25th, 1988. Officer investigated. The Briarcliff Manor Board of Trustees on Wednesday officially began an internal inquiry into the village police sergeant who is a suspect in a state police murder investigation. The board unanimously agreed to set up a panel to probe allegations linking Sergeant Ronald Langer to the state police investigation of the 1987 killing of Sherry Orofino of Dutchess County. Hey, True Crime Crazy. Welcome in. So, let's just see now. It's another one. Writing sample not required in death probe. A Briarcliff Manor police sergeant will not have to submit handwriting samples to authorities as part of an investigation into the 1987 killing of a Dutchess County woman, a Westchester County court judge ruled. The judge said Monday that he made the decision because there was insufficient probable cause to link the sergeant, Ronald Langer, to the death of Sherry Orofino. So once again, it goes into her remains being found, how she disappeared. But it does say Langer was on night patrol when the victim presumably disappeared. So he was potentially on patrol that night, which we do find out that He did patrol, but he did not have the authority to pull people over in the area that he was doing it. All right, let's see. Read these. Let's see what this one has to say. This talks about the school board. Oh, right here. This once again is just saying that the internal inquiry was going on. This is technically he is not arrested for Sherry's case, but he is arrested for a number of sexual assaults of women he did pull over on the Taconic State Parkway. And so he ended up being arrested with violating women's civil rights. Let's see. Once again, this article here, or this little snippet in the newspaper here is good just because it gives a map here, which I will end up showing you guys the Google Maps, but not too bad here. So this one says Briarcliff cop probed and slaying. Hate that word, probed. A Briarcliff Manor police officer is under investigation by New York State Police in connection with last year's killing of a Millbrook woman. State police believe Sherry Orofino was slain in the early morning hours of March 1st, 1987, while returning home from visiting a girlfriend in Queens. Police records show state police homicide detectives have focused their investigation on Ronald Langer, 34, a sergeant with the Village of Briarcliff Manor Police Department. According to the state police records, Langer was recently transferred from road patrol duties to the department's detective squad. State police and the Westchester County District Attorney's Office have gone to county court to compel Langer to submit handwriting samples as part of the investigation. He obviously refused, and we just read the article about that. They said, asked about Langer's involvement specifically. I can't address that specifically, but there have been police officers investigated in this case, he confirmed. Let's see. Goes into her last being seen again. Searching, found her car. Her husband was the one that reported her missing. Her skeletal remains were found 5 months later on August 9th along the south side of the Croton Reservoir near the Croton Dam Road in Yorktown. Because the remains were skeletal, the cause of Orofino's death remains undetermined according to an autopsy report. However, the police are calling the death a homicide based on information obtained during their investigation, including the fact that no clothing or identification was found with the body, according to state police and court records. According to a November 14th affidavit filed in Westchester County in connection with the investigation by state police, car was found March 1st parked beneath the Taconic State Parkway overpass near Route 134. Yeah. Yeah, a deep dive into the officer is warranted, but also, which I will get into, is the fact that not only did he resign, went to jail. I think he only served like 30 months of like a 7-year sentence or something. But he currently now works for the state. So he's getting paid by the state still. Which is, I suppose, an interesting information. Let's see what this one is. Family of slain woman urges continued probe. Thank God it's not nearly enough, but thank God. Those were the words uttered by Joan. Damn it, you guys told me how to say this too. Lutwak. Damn it, Elisa. I remember you guys telling me. This is in New York. When she learned yesterday that the man suspected of strangling her daughter during a sexual attack was sentenced to 6 years in prison for violating the civil rights of 5 other women. This was the article that I was looking for, the little snippet of the article. Apparently, Thistle, but this was one aspect that when I read this, I was like, okay, everywhere else, it says that there was no cause and manner of death other than homicide. But in this article, it clearly states that she was strangled during a sexual attack, which this article is from 91. So this is what, 4 years later? So I don't know. Do you guys think it's maybe just the author of the articles kind of going rogue, or like, do you think that this was just something that was known in the area, or what? What do you guys think based on everything else that we've read to then have it put like that? I'm curious as to what you guys would think. But I'll keep reading while you guys are telling me what you think. We are still praying that the state police and FBI continue to press ahead with their investigation of Sherry's murder and make her killer pay for this crime, she said. Authorities say her daughter was stopped along the Taconic State Parkway in the early morning hours of March 1st, 1987. For what, Thistle? State police and the FBI say Ronald Langer, a former Briarcliff Manor police sergeant, is their prime and only suspect in her death. Langer was convicted. Oh, yeah. Langer was convicted May 13th of violating the civil rights of 5 women by illegally stopping them on the Taconic, all near where Orofino's car was found, to socialize or, in one case, make sexual advances. Yeah, that too, I suppose. That popped up in the corner of my computer, so you know who you are if you hear me responding to you. Sherry's father, Norman, became choked up yesterday, recalling that Langer was sentenced exactly 4 years to the day he, his wife, and their son Scott buried their daughter and sister. Justice was done for those 5 women, he said, but please don't let them forget that Sherry was a beautiful, loving person whose life was just taken away and that she deserves justice as well. Paul Orofino, Sherry's husband, said yesterday that he was pleased Langer will pay for his crimes against the women he violated. He praised U.S. District Judge Vincent Broderick for sending a message to other police that abuse of their power will not be tolerated. As for Sherry, I'm convinced, as are the police and the FBI who killed her, he said. If there's any kind of justice out there, the murder investigation will continue. He will be indicted and convicted. Then Sherry can rest. Sonora's grandma, there's that. Of what he thinks happened. So that's interesting. Yeah, right? All right, let's see. I don't think there was a ton more. That was the main thing that I wanted to show you guys, was the differences between everything. Let's see. This one here brings up a photo from April 15th, 2015. So this is kind of where this all occurred. This is one of, like I said, the newer 2015 of the case, showing this, but then also tying Langer to it. So let me see what else we can show you guys. I do have a handful. So I will say Ronald Langer does actually talk about his conviction as well as his potential for being involved in Sherry's case, which I found very interesting, as still continuing to be the prime suspect in her case. I find it interesting that he put a statement out there regarding her case. He also put statements out there regarding his convictions. So let's see. This is what Ronald Langer, the police officer, not really. That was the gist of it, Thistle. And that's why I said this is so hard to investigate, because number one, it's still technically unsolved in an open case. So you can't like request files of anything. Well, I've been told no, I've requested them, but then they're like, sorry, open investigation. And then number two, it's the internet's not like it is now. So with interviews and stuff, if it's not like they could do Zoom interviews or anything like that, so it was really difficult to actually get people talking about it. But this is what he had to say. He says, for the state police to even infer that I am a suspect to anything after nearly 30 years when there's no link between me and this woman lacks credibility. Though never charged with an act in connection with this woman's death, I have been tried and convicted in the press through 27 years worth of inaccurate and inflammatory newspaper articles. Although I believe it's doubtful that the truth will ever be discovered about that case, my daily prayer is that the circumstances of her death are uncovered so that her family might have closure and so that I might have the shadow lifted from over my head that has upended my life for nearly 30 years. Sorry if I read that a little bit like a drama queen, but that's kind of the vibe I got off of it. Um, and then let's see if this one's the other one. Oh, this one here. Share this tab. So this one goes on to talk about what he's doing now. So this is Ronald Langer. At 61, Ronald Langer has put together an impressive second act, an attractive wife, 3 young sons, and a state job. The what was what one? Nora's. Yeah. Well, technically, back in the day, it's it's. Oh, I know. Tell me about it. Sorry, I'm reading through chat too, guys. It was, I think, only one person of SA officially. The other ones were of misusing his powers of whatever, and then he resigned. So, okay. Um, let's see. The job doesn't sit so well with some of those from his earlier life when he was a disgraced Briarcliff Manor police sergeant sent to federal prison for violating the civil rights of women he illegally pulled over on the Taconic State Parkway. So once again, he's working for the state. The constant in both acts, Langer remains the prime suspect in the 1987 death of Sherry Orofino, a Dutchess County woman whose decomposed body was found along the Croton Reservoir 5 months after she disappeared while driving home on the Taconic. Those who have investigated him and some of his victims wonder how one state agency, the police, would call him a murder suspect, while another, the Department of Labor, writes him a paycheck. They recognize he has never been charged, that there is a presumption of innocence, but the suspicion, coupled with his federal conviction, should be enough to keep him off the public payroll, they figure. I'm certainly not happy they gave him a job, but what can you do, said George Johansson, a retired state police senior investigator who led the probe into Orofino's death. I probably got too close. I was obsessed with solving it. A voice kept telling me, maybe you're wrong. But then the voice would say, God damn it, keep going. You're right about this. He also suggested during a recent interview that Langer would claim to have been framed. And he was right. Langer recently consented to an interview about the case for the first time, insisting that details had been twisted to make him a viable suspect, that he had not mistreated any of the motorists and had nothing to do with Orofino's death. He had stated, I never pulled her over, never met her, never had any contact with her whatsoever, Langer told the Journal News outside the state office building where he works. I've had to live all these years under the suspicion of murder I didn't commit, if it is a murder at all. He said his state employment, which began 14 years ago, was completely justified. If you have your career taken away, of course it's important to be able to start over, he said. I disclosed what I had been convicted of. It was deemed not to be a problem. Goes on to his application to take civil service tests for the Labor Department job in July 2001, showed he checked off the box indicating he had been convicted of a crime, but his handwritten comments obscured the fact that he had been convicted of unlawfully pulling over motorists. Yeah, right, Nora's grandma? Um, we already read all this, and they did say, he said He checked the no box when asked if he ever resigned from a job rather than face a discharge, even though his February 2nd, 1989 resignation as a police officer came the day the Briarcliff Village Board had scheduled a hearing to consider charges that could have led to termination. Technically, it was Nora's grandma, and that's what I don't understand about it. So, he they said he never brought up the Orofino case and they never asked him about it. With the Department of Labor, state police spokesman declined to comment on Langer's job with the state or discuss whether there was ever any contact between his agency and the Labor Department regarding Langer's employment. A spokesman for the state Labor Department declined to answer a series of questions regarding Langer's employment over the past several weeks. This was transport to jail 1990 following his arrest. Damn. That picture compared to the other picture we saw. Fancy. Says, I was unable to speak to the hiring of an individual that occurred over 14 years ago, said a spokesperson. In 2002, Langer married an exchange student and an au pair from Poland who was half his age. With her long blonde hair, his third wife bears a likeness to the motorist he's accused of pulling over. Johansson once told the Journal News that when the victims' pictures were lined up, they looked almost like sisters. He moved to a different place. I'm not gonna, even though they have it here, I'm not just, yeah. He was promoted 3 years ago to senior unemployment insurance hearing representative for the state. Nice. There was a 12-year gap on the resume Langer gave the state when he was hired. There was nothing about resigning in 1989 and so on. Nothing about the time he spent in federal prisons and a halfway house. So I doubt it was because of guilt, though, Jujubee. I want to say it was probably because he knew he was going to get fired once they had enough information. So once again, here he is. Goes on just talking about Orofino's death, which, once again, here's another article where it says, the decomp was so bad that the medical examiner could not determine an exact cause or manner of death, but the state police deemed it as a homicide, suspecting Orofino was killed during a sexual assault because no clothes were found with the body. Which I still find interesting, though. Well, Merp, that's because you just know me too well. But yeah, it says family and friends described Orofino as too street smart to stop for anyone but a cop. Several women soon came forward with accounts of being pulled over at night under the pretense that they were speeding or driving drunk. Some claimed the officer would compliment them on their looks or ask them out. So investigators reviewed records from police departments along the parkway to determine who was on duty when Orofino and the other women were stopped. Langer was one of them. Authorities said that he lied to investigators when interviewed in March 1988. They said he initially denied pulling women over, but when told that an off-duty New York City police officer, Fran Calderon, had identified him as the cop who stopped her, they said he changed his story. He acknowledged pulling over some women, but insisted they had been driving erratically or speeding. But as a village officer, Langer had no authority to patrol the Taconic, even the stretch that ran through Briarcliff Manor. The parkway is jurisdiction of the state police. So, you guys see the little snippet there where Langer is actually caught because one of the women that he illegally pulled over was an off-duty officer. Dumbass. So he said he also claimed that he was unfamiliar with the area where Orofino was found, but investigators claim his ex-wife disputed that. Langer said last month that the only area he ever frequented near the reservoir was Croton Gorge Park, below the dam, where he and his ex-wife would walk their Irish setter. So on and so forth. Let's see. Copy. He found an officer copy of one such ticket in a drawer at a police headquarters, which his lawyer turned over to law enforcement. He had always patrolled the parkway within the village after reading what he called erroneous press reports that he never issued a ticket. They were still able to find one. Later, Langer acknowledged that he mistook the village boundaries and would sometimes park his patrol car near north of the border. So, I don't. Ugh. A month after the Journal News identified Langer as a suspect in December 1988, the 21-year-old former White Plains resident, Jennifer Hummel, told investigators she hadn't just been stopped by Langer. She said he drove her to a spot near the reservoir, expressed interest in dating her, took her for coffee, and started forcibly kissing her when they returned to her car. The traffic stop was February 28th, 1987. The morning before Orofino went missing. So this was not a leap year. So February 28th would be the day directly before March 1st, obviously. And the area of the reservoir where Hummel described was near where Orofino's body was later found. Langer acknowledged to the Journal News that he pulled over both Calderon and Hummel, but none of the other women he found guilty of stopping. He insisted no crimes were committed and that he did not take Hummel to the reservoir. He said she was intoxicated, even saying 15 to him as soon as he approached her window. That was a reference, he said, to her blood alcohol level after she was pulled over shortly before by a state trooper. He had no explanation why the trooper would have let her go if she failed a breathalyzer test. He did take her for coffee so she could sober up, he said. And then the kiss? She came back from the car, leaned into the window and kissed me, and thanked me for helping her, Langer said. Ooh. It's one of those things where it's just like, what the actual F was he? He's just like, when he gets caught in a lie, he just plays it up, and that drives me absolutely nuts. In an interview last week, Hummel disputed Langer's account, saying his car was next to hers, blocking part of the right lane. So if she had gone to his window, she'd have been in the middle of the parkway. The ex-cop said he had also heard years later from whom he wouldn't say that the Calderon stop in late January 1988 was a setup, and that she was used as bait to get him to pull her over, and the stop was under surveillance. He said no video was ever turned over to him because the stop was so much shorter than they later claimed. And then both Johansson and Calderon both scoffed at that. So it just keeps going. Says I probably would have done that for them if they'd asked me to. I was so sick to my stomach. This is the cop that was pulled over, I believe, because something could have happened to me, or that could have been my sister. She recalled driving north into Taconic and passing Langer's police car with its brights on in the median. If I was a man, he would have let me keep going, but I was a dirty blonde driving a sports car, so he came right out behind me. She said she told Langer she was on the job and showed her ID, and he let her go. The next day, she told a state trooper friend of hers about a local cop who had stopped her, and he told her, "Get down here right away." Subsequent account to Johansson put the spotlight on Langer. The mounting suspicion is what caused him to resign. Took a state probation job in Nevada. Let's see. Everything. He ends up, like I said, getting charged for the other stuff and everything else. So I think that's the gist of that one. Now, I will show you guys before I end up ending it and showing you guys, once again, the phone number and showing you guys Sherry's pictures again. I'm going to show you guys the Google Earth stuff. I'm going to make sure you guys can see it, though, before I continue just blabbing. All right. So if you guys see here, this is the zoomed out version. Down here, right next to where it says New York, is Bayside, Queens, New York. And then straight up, you guys can see up here is Millbrook, which is the city in which Paul and Sherry lived. And then in between, you can see all of my little location markers for the different aspects of this. So Bayside Queens, we don't really necessarily need to see anything down in Bayside. I will bring you guys here. We'll go up to Millbrook if it wants to. Of course, it doesn't want to zoom. Why would it zoom? Ugh, telling you guys, this thing is gonna be the death of me. You can see little sections of Merp's stomping grounds for anyone curious. Uh, So once again, small city of Millbrook here. Not a ton of people in the town, but not necessarily like a small town either. And then when you actually get to, is it going to bring that one up then? Of course not. Oh my God, I hate this thing. Till you go to use it and then it doesn't want to work out anymore. So as you guys can see here, these are technically this is the construction and rentals, but this is right off of Route 44, which is where they lived at the time. Which, once again, is in Millbrook, but just outside of the actual city. And if we end up taking back out, I wish there was a way that this was like cooler. We'll go down here. So this is where kind of everything ends up taking place. So as you guys can see here, we have this here is the Croton and where her car is found. So we're going to go here first. And we'll go to people view. So this is Route 134, and the Taconic Parkway is over it. So this is the type of area here where her car was parked. This is also somewhat showing you, although there's this one. Oh, this is where her body was found, actually. So this one here, this is the dense type of forest that her remains were found in. And remember, they were just scattered bones. So it's not like you would just see a body on the side of the road. It was fishermen that found her body. And let me see. Trying to figure out exactly where. And here, if it wants to, here we go. This one is where her car is found in this area over here. So let's go down to the street view of that one. And once again, this is just where her car is found in this type of area where it's literally just woods here. You can see the bridge there for the Taconic Parkway once again. Hey, Princess Megan Elsa, it's good to see you. But you guys can see this is a very like deserted area. So I think even at this point in time, even though we all look up shit like this and like know that even if a police officer were to pull you over here, that you could potentially drive to somewhere safe or not open your window until you call 911 and verify that it's an officer. I'd be freaked out if I was, especially if I knew I wasn't doing anything wrong, which I guess back in 87, though, it would make it a little bit more difficult. But I don't know. I find it all very interesting. And like I said, I accidentally showed you guys her body first, where her body was found first, but um seriously, hate when this thing turns. Other way. There we go. 2 miles up the road is where here we go. Is where her body's found. And if you guys can see here, you'll be able to see this is the reservoir, and she's found on like the banks of the reservoir. So I wonder if any of these actually show like you go on the bridge. Cool. Here's a reservoir. Look at how dense the forest is. That's nuts. So it would have been somewhere like along the edge here by fishermen. Yeah, I don't know. The whole thing is crazy to me. But like I said, this is a cold case that I'm sharing the information that I could find regarding Sherry's case. I'm going to put a picture of her back up there. I'm also going to show you guys here that if anyone with any information regarding this investigation is asked to contact investigator Timothy Gleason of the New York State Police Bureau of Criminal Investigation in Cortland by calling 914-737-7171, and please refer to SJS number 3011688. Or if you are him and you happen to listen because there's nothing else here, I've been trying to get a hold of you to talk to you about something in the case. So email me back. Thanks. But once again, here are pictures of Sherry. Went missing March 1st, 1987. Loved, cherished by friends and family. Her car found in Yorktown, New York, off of the Taconic State Parkway. Her body found August 9th, 1987. According to different news articles, officially, I don't think there is a cause and manner of death other than homicide. But some news articles do say that it was a sexual assault / murder. So once again, guys, send love to Elisa, Elisa's Aunt Davina. Thank you guys so much for allowing me to share Sherry's story. And it's not going to be the end of Sherry's story. Sherry's is one of the cases here that I hold very dear just because they trusted me with telling her story and sharing it with all of you. And hopefully be able to see some movement eventually in it. It seems like it's a case that right, Murph? I know. Seems like it's a case that has kind of just went cold and stay cold, and I hate that. So, hopefully now this is out there so that when someone does search up her name, it's an overview of kind of her entire case. And yeah, I thank you guys for listening so much to Sherry's case, getting to know her. Once again, Elisa, Davina, thank you guys so much for trusting me and sharing Sherry's case. And thanks, guys. I think that's everything that I wanted to go over. Elisa, did you have anything else you wanted me to put out there before I end it? I just want to make sure that I'm not missing anything before I end it. No, thank you, Elisa. Thank you. Also, guys, we also got Nightbot working, just to let you guys know. Okay. Awesome. Thank you guys. Please make sure to share this live if you guys can with anyone you know anywhere. Doesn't have to just be in New York. Let's try and get Sherry's name out there again and try and get some movement in her case even all these years later. So, well, thank you guys so much for coming, and I'll see you guys soon. I'm working with another family on another case. and I look forward to doing a deep dive with you guys coming soon. I don't know if it'll be later this week or next week. I haven't quite decided yet. Thank you to everyone in chat. Thank you to everyone that'll be on replay crew. You guys are the best. Thank you to anyone that's listening but not in chat. And I will see you guys soon. Have a great night, guys. Stay kind. Bye.